Okay, aloha mai kako o wau o hauʻoli hiwa o wau ke kahumālama puke no ka waiahona Hawaiʻi a me ka Pakipika ma ke kula Kaiāulu ʻaʻo Ewa o ia hoʻi o Leeward Community College. Aloha mai, my name is Hauʻoli Hiwa. I am the Hawaiian and Pacific Librarian here at Leeward. I'm so excited to be talking to you folks at today's library lab. We are looking at Ke Kumu Waiuwai online Hawaiian research databases. We're going to be looking at different repositories that can be found online that can really help teachers of all disciplines to support Hawaiian content within their curriculum. We're really going to be exploring ways of using Hawaiian knowledge in things, classes like sciences and math, even social studies, really understanding that Ike Hawaii Hawaiian knowledge is useful, valuable, and worthy in every single discipline we have here at our college, and even more than that. And so again, we're going to be looking at some free online Hawaiian resource databases. They're my favorite. We're going to be looking at how it can be used for different content areas or for different disciplines. And we'll be at the end answering any questions that anyone might have about the different resources that we cover. And I always want to start off my presentations by saying that the goal here is imi pono, is to not just be searching through databases or engaging with different resources, but to really do it in a way that is accurate, targeted, vetted, to ensure that we use our time wisely when we're in these different repositories, but that we also get accurate information. Again, uplifting the reality that Ike Hawaii is useful and important in all disciplines, not just in Hawaiian studies. And it's so important when we talk about classes that are offered here in Hawaii, Hawaiian being the people, the culture, the intellect that is specific to this place. To be able to localize curriculum is so important. It allows our students to see themselves reflected in the classes, to learn more about their own identities, where they come from, to have pride in those things. There's also research that shows an understanding of different people's cultures also inspires people to have more understanding of their own. And so Hawaiian knowledge is important for all peoples, not just Hawaiian students, to be able to engage in. And with Leeward's commitment to being a Hawaiian serving institution, I'm really excited to be sharing these different resources today. And it's important that as we go through this for our faculty to really look at how we can find different ways to engage in Ike Hawaii, really understanding that it can be used to support different units, teach different conceptual content, to really highlight different historical topics, really allowing us to rewrite or reframe events we might be familiar with, however, from a Hawaiian perspective, and all the different vai or different value that those pathways offer. And also touching upon just very briefly, not just teaching Hawaiian content and engaging with Hawaiian content, but here are some suggestions on how to engage in that content in a Hawaiian way. So not just teaching Hawaiian information, but doing it in a way that is congruent with Hawaiian knowledge transmissions. Things like Ike Maka, Aipu Kako, Nana Ike Kumu, and different Aina-based education models. Different resources that outline how to do those things are available here on our QR code. Everything here is free, again, free, downloadable, and searchable, and is independent of the Leeward Community College online library databases. And again, when we talk about Hawaiian resources, it's really important to go deeper than just understanding the different types of resources that we traditionally touch upon when we talk about research literacy. Within the context of Hawaii, it's so important that we understand that not all resources written about Hawaii is accurate, that just because it's published doesn't make it legitimate, and that it's very important that we engage with a critical eye when we attempt to do research about Po'e Hawaii, Hawaiian people, Hawaiian histories, Hawaiian epistemologies. So again, today I hope that we can start to build research literacy on how to weight the different resources we come across, how to engage with them in new and interesting ways, and how to have a higher standard of engagement with Hawaiian resources so that we are finding a way to put that within all aspects of our curriculum, even the way in which that curriculum is presented to students. And so here is a QR code for a resource I created on how to evaluate different Hawaiian books for use in your curriculum. Again, the things we'll be looking at today are different online digital repositories. And so let's begin. And I always chuckle at this, but I've given this lecture elsewhere. And so I don't take for granted starting here. Also knowing, right, Google Translate does not work. It's totally broken. And so really when we're starting, they say, okay, kahua mamu, hope ke kukulu, first the foundation, then the building of the house. So really the foundations, utilizing things like vehevehe.org, the Hawaiian dictionary databases that have over, I believe, 12 different dictionaries that are searchable. You can search Hawaiian language terms to find their English definitions, or English terms to find their Hawaiian definitions. It's an excellent resource because you can look for different types of dictionaries. Like if you're looking for legal terms or land terms, you can look at something that will specifically speak to those types of lexicons. It also oftentimes will actually give you examples of that word as well. This examples of that word in sentences as well, Makaulala Hawaii in Hawaiian. This resource is found through Ulukau, which we're going to be touching on today, but Ulukau and Vehevehe itself. Anytime you jump on these websites, they will automatically be in Olelo Hawaii in Hawaiian. So you'll just have to go to the top right corner and select English to make your screen translated. That's something a lot of our students might come across and they are worried about. So just know, anytime you're in Ulukau, the default, as it should be, is in Hawaiian. Okay. Okay, so I really like to start actually at kumukahi.org. This is a wonderful resource database that comes out of Kamehameha Schools. This was a multi-year research project in which they created a resource to support the learning or the general engagement with different Hawaiian concepts. I'll pull that up now. And this is an excellent resource because a lot of times if we are not Hawaiian or we're not as familiar with Hawaiian culture, but we are interested in engaging with Hawaii within our classes, a lot of times we don't know where to begin. Maybe we are raised in Hawaii. We're familiar kind of with things like mana and kapu, maybe the Auwai system, but we don't have deep technical knowledge. And because of that, we might feel uncomfortable with bringing those things into our classrooms. The use of kumukahi takes away the guessing game because it creates already general resources that cover a wide variety of different Hawaiian concepts. It offers a 5 to 6 minute mini documentary interviewing different Hawaiian cultural practitioners on those topics. It gives us a vocabulary list, images that are related to the topic, and a general resource overall. It's really about empowering all people to show up to the mission of engaging with Ike Hawaii in a way that they're equipped with the information that they need. This is an example of a heiau, a resource for heiau. Every single one of these will start with a video, again, with a cultural practitioner. It'll have in Olelo No'eau a traditional proverb about that topic, and then it will start to break down generally what that topic is in a way that a beginner is able to access the information a way that's highly accessible. A lot of times when we try to research these topics on our own, maybe with Google and even with Ulukau, because they are books that are not necessarily general resources, it can get tricky. And so it's wonderful to start here because no matter what your knowledge is of Ike Hawaii, you will be able to be guided through understanding that process more. And so this is just the example of the topic for the heiau. They're short, they're concise. As you can see here, Keao Akua covers Hawaiian epistemological realms related to spirituality, religious concepts like that mana and the kapu, touches upon different Hawaiian gods, their different body forms, their what they represent within the natural world. We have a kahonua, which looks at things like different traditional land management, land tenure use, talks through the different ways in which land was traditionally governed and cultivated. It even looks at different interesting facts that are specific to the different mokupuni, the different islands throughout Hawaii, and some of the very unique engineering feats, again, related to that land tenure. Things like Loko'ia, the fish ponds, Auai, the irrigation systems, Alahele, the incredibly diverse and expansive foot trails that circumnavigate Hawaii, and the Ahupua'a system, the system of ruling and managing Hawaiian land bases based off of the natural resources available there. And so again, any of these things are offered not just with a text that can support it, but also again with interviewing a cultural practitioner, usually at a place that's being discussed. So the Heiau one is at a Heiau talking through those things. The Auai one is at a Molokai with Earl Kava'a next to his family's Auai talking through that system. So you can maybe, if you want to touch on things in your science class about fish, right? You're in some kind of biology class, marine biology, you can play that 5 to 6 minute video that touches on the fish ponds at the beginning of class, and then give the students a link to the page to do their own readings. But you can really start that as the foundation that you can then go into the different topics that you usually touch upon in that class lesson. Naka Naka covers things like Hawaiian social systems, traditional Hawaiian oratory, and knowledge transmission like mo'olelo and oli olelo loina. And then oihana are the traditional practices, and even mauli ola, things like traditional health and healing. And all of these things offer, again, a starting point for that exploration. This Awakua is being difficult. I want to show you guys Kahikina. Just really quickly, this also looks at Hawaiian understandings of cyclical generations. This is looking at things like the way in which the Hawaiian cosmogonic genealogies are arranged, the Kumalipo, the understandings of genealogy as well, and things like Kaloa, where Hawaiian people, according to some traditions, come from. And so that is a wonderful resource to begin to start empowering all of us to start bringing that Ike Hawaii within classes, to frame the different content and curriculum we engage with regardless of what topical areas we're in. And then within the different online databases of that Vai to really look at today, we've touched on vehevehe.org briefly. So now looking at Uluko and Papakilo. So Uluko is a wonderful resource. It's where Vehe again is held. And Uluko, like Vehe again, when you first get here, you have to first select the English so that it will translate the page. Uluko is wonderful because this is actually offered through the University of Hawaii at Hilo. This is the largest electronic library of Hawaiian resources in the world. Everything is free, searchable, and downloadable, and every single thing has been selected by a Native Hawaiian scholar, meaning that the resources here are vetted, they are reviewed, and they are charged to be accurate and legitimate by Native Hawaiian scholars, researchers, and cultural practitioners. This is what I say, use this instead of Google. It's excellent because it also has incredible partnerships with a variety of different Hawaiian organizations that have lent their archives to be digitized alongside different books that Uluko has. So as we can see here, these are some of the Uluko collections that are partnerships with different databases who you can research through their archives through Uluko. We have things like the Hawaiian Civic Club Historical Document Archives. The Hawaiian Civic Clubs is the largest civic organization of Native Hawaiian people, started by Jonah Kalaniana Ole in the 1930s. There is a large variety of books that we'll look at, but there's also resources like Hawaiian genealogy indexes, the ability to do genealogy resources, research online. It's offered here. There is a collection of up-to-date PhD dissertations from UH Hilo covering a wide variety of Ike Hawaii and Olelo Hawaii Hawaiian studies and Hawaiian language research. There are indexes for different newspapers, Hawaiian place names. There's even a Mahele database, Kani'aina, which is interviews with Manaleo Hawaiian native speakers from the early 70s, in which a wide variety of cultural knowledge is recorded. There's even resources from the Polynesian Voyaging Society and different writing and arts groups as well. And so this is an excellent resource. And so I would like to start actually by selecting this feature that it offers, which is curriculums. So um, a lot of people have used Ulukau previously, but they don't realize that it actually has a lot of joint ventures with different Hawaiian teachers that were in the Department of Education or continue to work within the Department of Education, where they've created highly detailed curriculums for science, history, social science, mathematics, all related or taught through a Hawaiian worldview, a Hawaiian lens, equipped with assessments, assignments, different resources, further readings that are already available for use within classes. So this is a really good example. This is a conversation, different, the IS classes, for the use of society. This talks through ideas around Hawaiian conceptions of self and identity formation, the way in which people relate to society, the way in which society informs the individual. It has conversations on how to have guided activities around helping students be empowered and understand their sense of place and their sense of self. There's also this wonderful curriculum of Imi Cycles and Hawaii's Traditions. This is a science resource. As you can see, anytime you click on the book, they have original pages, text only, and expand contents. Expand contents allows you to see all of the different topical areas that are highlighted. Text only gives you a text version of the resource. This is useful because you can control F to find specific terms. Maybe if I wanted to look up tides, this is looking at the way in which the tides are used, the atmospheric phenomenon of gravity to move, the way in which or the way in which the moon affects the tides. And as you can see, there's all kinds of resources. It's a lot easier to see it in the original pages. The original pages are the scanned version of that resource. And so as you can see, each of these lessons were created to the state specific I don't know what the term is, state-specific standards. So there are lesson plans created, the length of which the class topics take, the objectives, the activities that go with it, the assessments, which standards they are fulfilling within the DOE requirements. All of those things are already created. You're able, again, to look at these resources through parts, or you're able to go to the book again and you can click original pages under that book tab. It gives you the entire book, again, free and downloadable in one place. And again, it uses standards that are congruent with the DOE standards for teaching and learning here in Hawaii. And while some of it might be outdated with the standards, it ensures that all of these things are done in a way that they are highly useful in the classroom setting in Hawaii. Some of the different resources are things like Kahea Local that looks at the marine biology and engineering feats specific to the Hawaiian fish ponds. It also looks at things like sea and tides through this Kai'e'e, looking at marine biology. One of these resources also looks at the way in the microbes within the ocean are affected and how it engages with things like limu. That's out of my pay grade. This is another civics resource. This is a resource on science within the physical science curriculum. This is health and wellness. And again, this is really trying to highlight the fact that not only is Hawaiian information useful everywhere, but that a lot of the work has already been done within these different repositories that we're able to engage with. We do not have to start the wheel all over again. So this is one on marine biology. Here I can click the book. Here, maybe we can look at the original images. And so this is something through like the Edith Kanaka Ole resource. Um, and this is, again, not just science, but it is teaching using Ike Hawaii. So this is Okay, this is going to keep going. The Kumalipo is the longest single poem, as the West would describe, in existence. It takes about 6 hours to recite, and it is a re-remembering of the birth of every single thing in the order that it was birthed, that is specific to the Hawaiian natural world. So really, really championing traditional modes of science. Um, Back in Ulukau, we also have the added boon, the added vai of the fact that when you look up resources or different topics within the major catalog, they again show those different partners or specialty archives first, but then they also do something useful that they actually organize books by reading level. And this is super helpful because it allows us to know that if we are generalists, we're not as familiar with Ike Hawaii, or our students aren't, it gives us books that allow us to know where we can start, books that have general summaries of different topical areas. Resource Units in Hawaiian Culture is an excellent book to read. I just looked up Kalihi. And so this is talking about resources that is specific to Kalihi. It looks like that was one of the examples that they used within this textbook. Intermediate are different mo'olelos or general topical areas or books within that fall within that. General resources are usually more in-depth research books that cover large amounts of Hawaiian information, similar to the intermediates, but at a higher reading level. It also keeps a lot of primary resources, such as different archaeological studies of different places, things like the Fornander collections. And this is a really a wealth of information because, again, all of these things have been vetted. So I don't know, I'll just really quickly look up like Lono. And so again, we have those specialty archives. We have even the curriculums that touch upon them. Beginners are very, very beginning books. This is excellent for children, or if you're in education or literature classes. Intermediate, these are going to be the more beginning general resources. The Ahupua'a is an excellent book. From the Mountains to the Sea, Early Hawaiian Life is another one that really summarizes Hawaiian concepts. It allows us to know where to begin. The general books are the more highbrow general resources that are also mixed in with primary stuff. And then we have at the end different reference collections. And these are a lot of times going to be indexes and as well as Papakilo. So Ulukau is a wonderful place to start. I tell my students that if they're really unfamiliar with Hawaiian stuff, start with Kumukahi, understand the things that you're looking at first. Use those pieces of information to then plug into Ulukau to start finding general resources. And when you're ready to advance deeper, Papakilo is a wonderful database that has even more primary resources. Papakilo is referred to as the databases of databases. I don't know, they named themselves that. This is through the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. It's a wonderful resource because, similar to Ulukau, they've had multiple community partners, and so there's a lot of specialty archives on here. Um, I'm going to just show you folks really quickly. Along the left-hand side where you can search by collection, these are all of the different specialty partners that Papakilo has agreements with. So we have the Ali'i letter collection. These are primary letters that were translated from Hawaiian, from the Hawaiian royalty and aristocracy. There's the Bishop Museum collection resources that go into more in depth. Sometimes this is even more easy to search than the Bishop Museum archives that's digitized. There's collections outside of Hawaii, those genealogy indexes that are on Ulukau are also here. We have Hawaii State Archives, Hawaii Mission Houses. We even have things like the Hula Preservation Society. If you're interested in looking at chants and melees, even different traditional hula styles specific to different regions, it's offered there. There's also maps and Mahele Aina research. If you're doing land or legal claim research, there is a wealth of information. And so each time you see the results at the top of the page, will actually tell you what the results are by collection. And this allows you to very easily focus your search on very specific topical areas. So this is an example of a place name. I looked up the word Lono. This is a place name that says Haleo Lono. This is some type of house or building of Lono. And here you can see there's a wonderful amount of metadata information. This is actually something that has this is one that has maybe a smaller amount of those things. But just by looking at this, we know what type of a place it is. It's a heiau. We know where this heiau is located, and we even have the book that will allow us to do the research. And this looks like it's a catalog of place names through the Board of Commissioners to Quiet Land Titles of the Kingdom of Hawaii. And so these are wonderful, different vetted resources, similar to how Ulukau has been selected by Hawaiian scholars. Okay. And so really briefly, these again are those curriculum resources. I really encourage you folks, if you aren't familiar, to utilize it. These are the resources I really like for community identity and social emotional learning. It even covers how to create a classroom that's conducive to learning and teaching as per Hawaiian concepts of teaching and learning. Very interesting. These are resources related to science and math through a variety of different stuff. So the Kahana Imi Na'uo looks at it through the concept of math, while the other ones look at things like marine biology, microbes, and different engineering feats specific to science. And then finally, the last one is Kipuka. Kipuka is a GIS database. GIS stands for geographical something something. It's basically you have the ability to see these maps of Hawaii, these different images of the islands, and it's interactive. So you can click on the different parts of the island to get different metadata information, so background on those places, and to understand things like place names and the way in which land is broken down. What I mean by that is it tells you the ili, the ahupua'a, the moku, what land division these places are in, historical sites specific to that place. And if you're doing more advanced research, it even gives you the TMK, the number that you need if you're going to do things like Mahele research. I really like this because sometimes our students are visual. Sometimes our students, when they're asked to do assignments about the places that they're from, they don't even know the name of where they're from. Maybe they know the ahupua'a or the moku, but they don't know their ili. This allows them to do that research. It allows us to find Aina in three unique ways. It allows us to find a place again by clicking on the map. It allows us to put in a place name through the search box, and this is helpful too. You can learn that there's multiple kaupo. Maybe you're trying to do kaupo on Maui, and then you find out the hard way when you finally find the perfect resource, that the resource actually covers kaupo in Waimanalo. So this will let you at least know that you have multiple kaupos to look out for. And my favorite feature is the fact that you have the ability to drop a pin at your location, and it uses GPS to find in real time where you are situated on these historical maps that are divided by region. So I'm able to drop a pin now, and it would tell me that I'm not only in I'm in Pu'uloa, that I'm in Honouliuli, and where in those places again I specifically am. This is really, really helpful because it can be very difficult if students again are asked to do place-based things, but they don't have the traditional names. The primary resources are going to refer to places correctly, and the correct way to refer to these places are by the traditional land land perimeter ways. I see in the chat. Okay, I see from Kevin. What's an example of the mistakes that Google Translates makes? So the example is everything. Not only are the terms incorrect, but the grammar is nonsensical and not accurate. To date, I haven't seen like the most basic sentence even being done correctly. The gold standard is Uluko. I didn't even know there was a Google Translate until after I was done at Hawaiian Studies Master's Program. It's not something that they support at all. And it's so sad because you can always tell which student is cheating with the wrong resource, right? Because they will have everything wrong and you'll have to kindly tell them that's not even the right dictionary. If you're going to do your work at the last minute, you might as well use the correct resource. I think that's a really good question. And a lot of people don't know that. And next, I see I have visited a historic site recently and have its number, but I didn't see it in a Kipuka database. I'm curious if we have a relationship with the provider to be able to understand what's missing. That's a really good point too, that there is the need for more metadata for different areas. They do have information on how to contact them. So for instance, there is uh, um, email right here. It says kipukainfo@oha.org, and you can email them directly. That can be helpful. But I'm going to go off script a little bit and show you the resource that I use for that type. And I'm assuming that when you say number, you are talking about the TMK number. There's this wonderful resource, Ava Konohiki, which was created by Lilikala Kame'elehiva, senior research faculty at Kalani Center for Hawaiian Studies at UH Manoa. This has a very enumerated resource or support on how to do not only research with the TMKs, but has its own list of land and TMK indexes that you're able to use. So they have the LCAs in here, the land claim awards that are related to the TMK. They also have the ability to search all these resources in beginner mode or expert mode. There's also different videos that are attached to this resource that will support you in how to do that research. So we have like something like Lilikala videos, Hawaiian land documents. So we have the foreign testimonies, the native testimonies, the buke mahele. So all of these things will probably be a much better bet with using those that number to cross-reference with either maps or the different testimonies or registers in a way that you're absolutely right, Kipuka doesn't have. I do believe that they're continuing to add to those things, but it isn't as robust as Abakonahihi. Yes, and I can go ahead and make sure that you have these links, and I can also share the presentation with you as well, where it has everything QR coded or tagged as well. All right, and so I hope that as we're talking through all these things, the biggest thing is to know that the research, a lot of times there's a lot more resources that we do have, and it's to empower everyone to know that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It can be extremely overwhelming to include Ike Hawaii in different resources or classes if you're not familiar with Ike Hawaii on your own, or if you're not familiar with all the repositories. So really knowing that access to this information is free, is for the public, and is the right of all people to have accurate Hawaiian history, something we can't take for granted, especially within the context. And so, as I like to say, Google can find you 1,000 answers. A librarian can find you the right one. So if you're interested to know more, if you are struggling with finding different resources, if you want to just talk shop about interesting ways to engage with Ike Hawaii in the classroom or curriculum, please email me. I would love to have the conversation. So here I'll say mahalo nui.